So there we go. Da 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 da. Hey Terrence, what's up, bro? Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Cynthia just joining us just now. Oh, there she is. Hi.
Hey guys, Terrence, Daryl, everyone. Hi guys, and hi Anesu.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. How you doing?
Good, good. Can't complain. Excited
Uh-huh.
about this topic, but yeah,
I'm
yeah.
curious. I'm curious to see what you came up with, because to be straight up honest, I was so much I was needed into a lot of things. I didn't really spend a lot of time preparing, but I just had a lot of material before, and I hope that's gonna be sufficient. So I'm really curious to hear what you got.
Hey Nyasha, and yeah, same. Like I have assignments and exams, so it's just but
Oh yeah.
we will,
Serene, hi Serene, thanks for joining us. So the topic is alone in a crowd. I had written it there. Let me pin it. Okay, pin comment. Okay, alone in a crowd, and there are a lot of things we can talk about from just this topic. Let me start by asking you, what was the first thing that came to mind when you saw this alone in a crowd?
Oh guys, feel free to write down as well. For me, it was like I just thought of a time whereby like I've been alone in the crowd or I felt alone. But can I say it was alone? Because when you're around people, you're not really alone. You're kind of
You
lonely,
know,
but
physically
I've
alone, but yeah.
like, yeah, but I've had situations like that whereby you'll be around people,
Mhm.
and there have been jokes, but you just feel like, how come I'm not? I don't get it. Like I don't get the joke. What's the joke? Or you're around people, they're talking about
Mhm.
something and you can't relate. Like literally, you're just like,
Exactly.
I actually can't relate. What is this? And I've had a
Uh-huh.
lot of those situations, and I'm kind of used to it. Like it's just
I
one of
mean,
those things.
I've been here for 6 years in Ukraine. And when I came here initially, I didn't know a single word of Russian. I didn't even know the Cyrillic alphabet existed. I got off the plane and I attempted to talk to somebody from the immigration's office in English, and they were just saying something in Ukrainian. I mean, it was crazy. Then I go to church. I'm thinking, oh, church, I think somebody's going to understand. But no, it was just Russian and Ukrainian, except a few who understood English and I was talking to, right? And I would go to the youth meetings, even though I didn't understand nothing. I would go to the youth meetings, and there people would burst into laughter. And all I hear are weird sounds. La, 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 la. And people are bursting into laughter, and I'm just sitting there like, so you know what I'll do? I'll just go like, you know, that. Because I just didn't get anything. And you'd really feel alone, especially when they're firing jokes. One joke is coming after another, and you're like, oh, what am I doing here? So yeah, that feeling does exist. I've been there. I've been there a lot of times. Thank God now I know Russian. I also laugh, but sometimes I just still don't get it. Still.
The struggle is real. It is clash of cultures. I understand English. I'm in an English place, but sometimes it's just like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But it is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah.
So So, guys, thank you for coming. If you're just joining us now, we're talking about Alone in a Crowd. If you have any comment or anything, just write it down there in the comment section. We'll be glad to hear what you think. And if you have any questions as well, and we're just starting. So Cynthia, tell me, what did you have for us?
All
What
right. So
direction did you take it into? Huh?
all right. So I'll just start with her story. This is
Oh.
like a story of what I've seen a lot of times. And okay. So basically, there was a young, not a young man. I'm always like saying young man when I'm starting stories. Okay, there was an elderly man, who literally lived alone. So he was alone.
All right.
and
Yeah.
like his family, his wife was dead, his kids were abroad, everything was just, he lived alone.
It was just
And
him.
it what happened, yeah, like you, sometimes you got to church, because it was like, you know
Yeah.
what, I feel alone, I need to have people around me. So you got to church, and then people just be like, hi, how was your week? I'm good, good. And then that's it, the kind of
That's
thing,
it.
which
Yeah.
is like a normal thing we do, like, hi, but we really don't care.
Yeah.
We really don't care how people feel, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And then, um, and then you'd go to town like on his own and sit there for hours. No one would say hi to him and everything like that, until it literally kind of got him depressed and all that, and caused
Oh.
other effects. All right, but we're not gonna finish the story. It was just an
Okay.
example of, and it, like when you sent the topic, or just like it just reminded me of that man, because I've had the story, and also
Mm-hmm.
reminded me of, I don't know about in Ukraine, but in England apparently there are a few studies that actually show, I think I have one of them up, by like that actually shows how loneliness is a big thing, especially with the elderly population in
Oh
England.
yeah.
It's literally
Mm-hmm.
like 1.4 million and everything like that. It's a big
Yeah.
thing. And but it's not just elderly people experience loneliness. Sometimes even young people do experience loneliness. So it was
Mm-hmm.
now like a question now to you, and the people around there, like, have you ever experienced what this man experienced, or do you know people who are experiencing something similar to that? Yeah.
Good question. So I've observed and I've noticed that, yeah, there are some people who actually go through that. Sometimes they're lonely because they've traveled far from family. Starting, I came here, I didn't come alone. I came with my guy Takudzwa, was with Memory, you know Memory, and Memory Matanire.
Oh yeah,
Kumwinsa.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't make me embarrass
And
myself.
and I was with Mercy, and we were a group, right? So we had this support base, we had each other. But as you go to class, as you go around and see other students who are going about in town and other places, you see that there are some of them who are literally just alone. It's just them. They didn't come with any group of other people. The only friends they have, the only people they have are people whom they have met here, who are either people of other nationalities or people who are, I mean, really actually natives of Ukraine. So you can actually see it. Sometimes you see it and you feel helpless. You want to help, but you don't know how. You reach out to someone, hi, how you doing?
Mm.
Oh, how's your day going? Tell me, look, how's been your week and stuff like that. And depending on the person's temperament, they can be open to talk much. Sometimes they might not. And I've also observed something like that at church as well. There's this guy who used to come. I used to teach English lessons, like have an English club kind of thing, free English club. And this guy would come, and I noticed he would come with a lot of things. Like he would have his bag, he would have his iPad, his phone, he has a lot of things on him. He puts them on charge and he's there. It seems like he's not in a hurry to go anywhere else. There's no place for him to really go, kind of. And no one really paid much attention to this guy.
Mhm.
Though he's actually a guy who actually has somewhere to live and he has all that. But I mean, he feels like he longs for that human interaction. Every opportunity he gets to talk to you, he will talk to you. He won't let you go. You will talk and you talk and talk. So yeah, I've seen something like this. Could I say I've really gone through it myself? What I'm really alone in that way? I don't think. I don't think I have. I've just felt alone in instances where I feel left out, like
Mm.
like the one I described earlier of the language barrier and cultural difference, as well as when the interests are different with the people you are with, right? And you just kind of don't really fit in, but you have to be there. So yeah. That's what I've experienced myself. And the study you're talking about the elderly, I've actually seen it because I was thinking of going into research, and I was looking at the different research opportunities that are there out there, and I saw one actually from the British NHS, which had to do with loneliness of the elderly. And I think they wanted to look into, I don't know, how to reduce loneliness in the elderly, and also the psychological effects it has on them. Some of them don't have family anymore. Unlike what we have back in Zimbabwe, where we have this huge extended family. In many other places, countries, they have like smaller families, and all these people can drift away easily. Some of them pass away, and it's easy to have someone really be alone. So
Interesting. This is an interesting topic. If you have any comments, East finds West, please send them through. So what does it mean, okay, to be alone? And what's the difference between alone and loneliness? Because we keep saying, oh, alone, loneliness, alone, loneliness. What's the difference? Yeah.
Good question. Yeah, I think I didn't look into it, but off my head, I would think you can be alone but not lonely. All right, you're alone, but you feel the presence of other people who are not there with you physically. But you can be lonely even though you have people who are with you physically, because you don't feel their support, or you don't feel their presence in emotionally, I could say. Physically, they're there. They can provide you or talk to you or something, but you can still be lonely because there's a certain connection that is required that you are not getting. Maybe it's not required, but it's what you need, but you're not getting it. So I think loneliness is now a psychological state where you are now, I don't want to dive and say getting depressed about being alone and not having a certain level of emotional connection with other people, but you really feel down and low, and you yearn for this connection. I don't know, what did you get?
Literally almost the same thing. Yeah, like basically like what East finds West is say. Alone is, both of them are adjectives in that aspect. And then Cambridge Dictionary actually says alone is an adjective, and oh, that's not the definition I wanted. Can't find the definition I wanted. Okay, it's okay. I'll just use this one. Okay, basically the main difference between being alone versus lonely is that lonely people aren't happy with their situation most of the times. With the situation, with that current situation they will actually be in. But being alone is a state of being, and being lonely is an emotional response to it, like what you say, psychological. So being alone is like, okay, you're on your own, you're onesie, and then being lonely, it's a different thing. A good example, which a lot of people use, young people understand, is being alone whereby you are single, you're not married. Being lonely is now the negative connotation, because you can be single and not married and feel like, I'm actually good, like this is a gift, I'm okay. And then being lonely is like, geez, nah, I need someone, like I'm not happy, that kind of thing. And it's like a negative feeling to that state of being alone. But sometimes you can be in a crowded place and actually feel lonely. So lonely is a state. It's not just, it's not just, I don't know how to explain it. But you
It
guys
has
are
more. It
the
has
gist.
more to do with the emotional and psychological part of the person than it has to do with the physical part of a person, of someone's well-being, can I say, or someone's surrounding. So therefore, the possibility of someone being alone in a crowd. So yeah, thanks, Michael. I see. So Istfine's worst. His name is Michael.
Michael. Okay.
Yeah, Michael.
All right.
Yeah. So
Um,
Michael, thank you for the contribution. You can go on. You can go on and type it. We're gonna read it out when it's ready. I think he had something to add there. He's probably still punching it in. I guess we'll
I
see
thought he
when we're ready.
did. He added, I think the most helpful thing is to look at three. Oh, three what? I'm not sure. Okay.
Yeah, he went on
Uh,
sent before already, so we're gonna wait.
but the emotion of loneliness implies a negative. I think the most helpful thing. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, now, so if we've said being alone is whereby you're on your onesie, how can you be alone in a crowded area when, why alone in a crowded,
Good
in
question.
a crowd?
Let me tell you a story.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of a description of an experiment that was done. You know, scientists can be notorious. They don't only they do experiments also to find out the behavioral um, aspects of animals. So what they did is they took this little animal. I'm not gonna tell you what it was. I want you to guess, to try and guess what it was. So if you guys think you know the name of this sea creature, just write it in the comment there. Let's see who's gonna get it right. Who
Wait,
knows?
start
There might be a
again.
prize waiting for you. Let's see who are the wide readers out there. Okay. So there's a comment from Michael. Let me read it out before we proceed. So it says it's helpful to look at the biblical example of loneliness. I think specifically of the story of Joseph,
Mm,
ripped from his family and sent to a strange land. Patriarchs and prophets is explicit. Yes,
I
yes.
was
Instead
gonna
of
touch
living,
on, I was gonna touch on Joseph later. So good.
oh
We'll come
yeah,
back to that. We'll come
yeah, we're
back to
gonna
that.
come back to that. So I see people already trying to guess the name of the sea creature. Okay, someone's saying a sea lion. Okay, we'll hold on to that thought. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about this little creature. So Michael, thank you for the comment. We're gonna come back to it later after this short story. So what
Start
this
again.
sea creature
Start
does?
again. Can you please start again the story?
That again? Okay, okay. So what they did, this scientists, is they went to the sea and they took this sea creature. I'm gonna give you a clue. It's small. So what this little guy does, or what these little creatures do, is after every 2 to 6 weeks. So that's an average because different types of them do it after different periods of time. So to every 2 to 6 weeks, they molt, go down to the bottom of the sea, rub themselves against some rough edges of, I don't know, stones or shells or the coral reef or whatever it is that's down there, and they peel off their skin just like what snakes do, and they leave it there. Now,
Ah,
yeah. So after the molting process, they have to pick up a little stone and place it on their head. All right. Now, when they place this little stone on their head, it helps them understand which side is up and which side is down because it's pushing against their head. The force of gravity is pushing against their head as the stone is trying to go down. I don't know if you get me. This, like, imagine you're
okay.
putting
Okay.
a 20-liter bucket of water on your head. You're gonna feel
Yeah.
it pressing against your head.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So as long as they feel this pressure, they know they are swimming the right way, the right side up. Okay.
Okay.
So this little stone is called a status stone. A status stone. So they put it on their heads and they swim around. They know which side is up, which side is down. And if they don't have it, they are disoriented. They can just swim anyhow. So what they did now, these notorious scientists, they took some of these, they put them in an aquarium, and they replaced all stones with iron fillings, small iron fillings. Molting time came. All these little fellas went down. Instead of putting small stones on their heads, the only thing that was there was what? The iron fillings. So they took the iron fillings, put on their heads, and they thought, oh, everything's fine. I mean, still presses against their head, so they feel which side is right and which side is not. So they were swimming normally. Anyway, so later on, the scientists decided to say, okay, let's put a weak magnetic force on top of the tank. All right. So before I go on to ask my next question, I want to hear what you think of this small creature. What do you think it is?
Me or the people?
Yeah,
Me, I
everybody.
don't know.
I want answers from everybody, guys. So somebody said they think it's a sea lion. What else? Who else has an idea? Who else thinks they know what it could be? Let's see.
Me, I don't know.
It could be a gift. I could give out a gift for this one. Molts every 2 to 6 weeks, puts a status stone on its head so that it knows how to swim properly. It's a sea creature. All right.
Yeah,
so if
some
you
people
think
are gonna Google.
a snake,
A snake.
no. So
Wait,
not a snake.
a snake. Pig
Yeah,
on
maybe
the head.
he's thinking of probably a water snake. But how will the snake put a stone on its head? It's got no phalanges.
Seal.
A seal. No, not a seal. So far we have sea lion, snake, and seal. None of the above. So I'm gonna let you keep trying and keep thinking about it. Please do not Google. Be be faithful, people.
I know just is gonna Google.
Yeah. So when they put a weak magnetic force on top, right? Oh, it's not from Zimbabwe, bruh. Zimbabwe is landlocked, and this is a saltwater creature, so not from Zimbabwe. Okay, so they put this weak electromagnetic force on top, and these guys have what? Iron fillings on their heads, right? What do you think happened? What were their
They
response?
went down. They sank in because. Oh,
Sank in?
wait,
The
what?
electromagnetic force is up here. It's weak. It's not very strong. It's weak, but they have iron fillings on their heads. What do you think happened? Oh, Michael missed it. Well, Michael, we're talking about this little sea creature, which which puts a stone on its head, blah blah. Now, instead of a stone on its head, it has iron fillings, and then they put a weak electromagnetic force on top of the aquarium, and they are swimming in there, right? And instead of a stone, they have, you know, an iron filling. They have iron fillings on their heads. So what do you think happened from the fact that there is now a weak electromagnetic force on top? Ooh, not a dolphin. Not a dolphin.
It's a small creature.
Michael,
It's a small creature.
it's a small creature, yeah. It's small. It's in a plate. Some people eat this creature, but biblically it's considered impure.
You know what? I think this is a perfect example of me alone in a crowd. Because I'm trying to understand the story, but I'm already alone.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
This is a penguin. Penguin.
No, not a penguin. So, all right. I'm going to tell you what they do for the sake of, or what happened for the sake of our time. So, but I'm not telling you the name of the creature yet, in case somebody's going to get it. So, what happened is they felt this force, right? And it was greater than the force of gravity. So, instead of swimming the right way, they started swimming the wrong way. Because, they went upside down because they are trying to balance it. They felt like, oh, I'm swimming the wrong way here. So they went upside down, and then they felt that greater pull from the electromagnetic field as if it's the force of gravity. So now they are upside down, but they feel like it's normal, and they're swimming around.
So they're upside down the water. Okay, all right, I get it.
Yeah. So they're in the aquarium swimming upside down, all of them, because of this electromagnetic force. right? Oh, it's not an anglerfish. Wow, the first time I knew of an anglerfish, it was like the ugliest fish ever. I will
No
never
idea
forget
what
it.
that is. I need to watch nature shows again because
Oh,
I'm
I
lost.
love them.
But yeah.
So these small creatures were now swimming upside down. And then this is what they did. They brought one from the ocean that had already gone through the process of molting and had a small stone in its head, introduced it into the same aquarium, and because it had a stone in its head, it was not affected by the electromagnetic force. So it was definitely swimming the wrong way. I mean, not the wrong
The
way,
right
but in a
way.
different way. Yeah, it was swimming the right way, but it was different from the rest. Can you imagine the conversations that were happening in there?
Oh, what's wrong with him? Where is he going? Like, why is he going the wrong way? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, who
Like,
does he think he
he's a
is?
weird.
Yeah, he's a
Yep.
weirdo and all that. And he must have felt so alone in this crowd because he knows he's swimming the right way, but everyone else is scolding him like, no, that's wrong, man. You're swimming wrong. And I'm 100% certain this small, I almost say the name, this small creature.
Something S.
That's a clue. Yeah, it starts with an S. It starts with an S. So this creature did not try to fit in and say, okay, I'm now going to swim the wrong
Snail.
way.
Oh no, sorry. Ignore
Not a
that.
snail.
Ignore
Not a snail.
that. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
So it did not try and fit in and say, okay, I'm just going to swim the wrong way just so that I can be a part of the crowd. It kept on swimming the way it knew was right and did not try and fit in, you get it. So that's one of the great lessons you can learn from this. Hi, Irisha, welcome.
Hi,
And so,
Mr. Mambo.
yeah, so that's one of the great lessons you learn from this, that sometimes we're alone in a crowd, right? Probably it's because of our beliefs, our principles, things we hold as true that the rest of the crowd does not hold as true. And yet there's always an impulse to try and fit in. Every human being wants to fit in one way or the other. We just try and fit in, but there comes a point where we have to decide, are we going to compromise what we believe in? Are we going to compromise our principles so that we can fit in or not? And in this case, with this small creature, it had a status stone. It's nice how it's called a status stone because, I mean, it helped it maintain its rightful status. It had the right thing in its head and it helped it maintain its right status. The rest had the wrong thing in their head and it was easily tampered with such that they would swim the wrong way. I mean, that's the thing that always comes to my mind when I hear alone in a crowd, since I read about it.
I like the story. That was actually a good story. If you haven't listened to it, you need to re-listen later, guys. Yeah. Mishu's even saying the analogy.
There's a whole lot of lessons. There's a whole lot of lessons that can come out of it as well. Every time I tell it and ask people to tell me what are the lessons they can derive from it, I learn something new. So it's go and think about it and write down all the lessons you can come up with from it. And by the way, this small creature, I guess no one got it, so I'm gonna keep my prize. I'm sorry. I'm excited. The great reveal. It's a shrimp. It's a shrimp.
Oh yeah, unclean. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to watch nature films, guys. People, yeah. But
yeah.
Oh wait, why are we waiting? Go on.
Go on. Oh, not a scorpion.
All right. You know what? This story, I think
I had a question. I had another question, like a different one after that story, but I think it goes now hand in hand with what Michael raised about Joseph,
Exactly.
whereby Joseph was doing the right things. Like if we look at the story of Joseph, the way he's introduced, like from in the Bible, it talks about how a 17-year-old, not 16, a 17-year-old, like basically before that we realized like God's talking about how Jacob was Jacob had so and such and such and son, right? And then all of a sudden it switches. It kind of gives more details about Joseph. Oh, basically Joseph, a young child, a young tad of 17 years old, while we're being told his age. Ooh, interesting. And then it talks
Yep.
about how he was so obedient. Yeah, he had a big mouth, but he was an obedient child. To the extent that his obedience, right, it annoyed everyone. And then he ended up being sold as a slave, and then he ended up being rejected by his brothers, and then he ended up like he kept on doing the right things.
Yep.
Even when he went to like he ended up working for Potiphar and everything like that. He was doing right until like because he was doing right, they ended up promoting him. And then because he was doing right, he was being like a really good guy, and he was also like really good looking as well. Potiphar's wife was like, I think she had her eye on this guy for a long time,
Oh yeah.
and then all of a sudden, what did she was like, can you sleep with me? But I'm sure it didn't come from all of a sudden, can you sleep with me? It could have been like, oh, Joseph, I've heard about you. You're that young
She was
guy. We work a
observing
lot.
the guy.
And Joseph
Oh
is
yeah.
like, yeah. And then tomorrow, oh, Joseph, can you please help me with this? Do you know if you ever need anything in life, I'm always here. Joseph's like, okay. And then another day, oh, Joseph, can you please? But anyway, do you know if you ever need anything, I'm always here, the kind of thing. Like, the enemy comes swift, And then
Oh yeah.
until one day, she's like, this boy is taking forever. He's not getting the hints. Let me just go for it. And she went for it. But even
Straight.
though she went for it, Joseph knew what was right. If she was following the crowd, I would guess like Potiphar's wife, this wasn't a one-off, like a first thing. Probably it had happened with the other servants. I'm not saying it happened, but I'm thinking probably it had happened with other people. And then
Yep.
she's like, oh, I'm used to getting my way. So with Joseph, it
I
was
get what I
like,
want.
dude, everyone does it. And Joseph was like, even if everyone is doing it, I'm just going to keep on being faithful. I'm just going to keep on being me because I'm used to
Oh
being
yeah.
the only one doing the only one in a
The right.
crowd, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So although what she did at that point looked like it was foolish because he ended up being in jail and everything like that. Long term, like when we look fast forward, realize that him accepting to feel alone or to be the only one doing what was right ended up enabling him to actually succeed in life.
Yes.
And this was it a shrimp. This shrimp, although it felt like it was the only one which was going the right direction, everyone else was going the wrong direction. It was probably the only one who actually made it to the destination to where they were supposed to go. And the other guys, when they reached where they were not supposed to go, were like, wait, why are we here? This is not the right place. And then they had to go back to where they were
Yeah.
supposed to go, that kind of thing. And it's just amazing. Like, just because you're alone, basically, in a place, if you know that you're alone at the right place, then just keep going. Just
Yeah.
because everyone doesn't want to exercise and you're the only one who's exercising, that kind of thing, but you know the after effect's gonna be good, just keep exercising because
Oh, and
long term it's gonna
nutrition.
help. And that kind of thing. It's not about trying to be like everyone. It's about you knowing who you are and you doing what you have to do to get to where you want to get to. Yeah, I like that story.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. And Michael just sent me the quotation from Patriarchs and Prophets on Joseph. Let's see. It's a pretty
What's
long
Patrick's?
quotation.
So basically, for those who don't know, Patrick's and Prophets, it's a book that kind of explains a bit further stories from the Bible and everything like that.
So it's Patriarchs and Prophets chapter 20, which talks of Joseph in Egypt. Go and look for it and read it. You will learn a lot of interesting things. I'm just going to read this highlighted part. Wow, it's pretty long. Okay, so it says, bitterly he wept at thought of that loving father in his loneliness and affliction. Again, the scene at Dothan came up before him. He saw his angry brothers and felt their fierce glances bent upon him. The stinging, insulting words that had met his agonized entreaties were ringing in his ears. With a trembling heart, he looked forward to the future. What a change in situation from the tenderly cherished son to the despised and helpless slave. Alone and friendless. What would be his lot in the strange land to which he was going for a time? Joseph gave himself up to uncontrolled grief and terror. So kid was scared. He gave himself up to uncontrolled grief and terror. But even so much grief and terror did not make him change, because we see him doing the same thing in Potiphar's house. He did the same thing in prison. He did not change. And he kept true to himself. He was never worried about being alone in a crowd. Not that loneliness is right. Loneliness is not right. If you feel lonely, guys, wherever you are, reach out, say something to someone, let them know you need the support. Humans earn for human-to-human interaction. Just go ahead. There's probably someone around you who's willing to help you and be there for you. And so don't shy away from asking for help. When you're lonely, you can find someone to help you and be there for you. So, and as well, give it to God. Yes, thank you very much, Michael. Give it to God, pray, let him know what you're going through. Let him know and tell him about it all. Even in relationships, sometimes, I mean, can I say in relationships or, okay, when it comes to relationships, yeah. Even when it comes to relationships, when you feel like, ooh, enough, I need somebody, I need someone. Yeah, talk to God and let him lead you, and he will find someone right for you. Michael is saying, even when we can't find someone, God is always there. Yes. Thank you so much, Michael. God is always there. Cynth.
I have a question now. So someone might be listening and be like, okay, the examples you gave are great. However, I am feeling lonely right now. And how can I fill that void? Oh, before we even get there, how does loneliness actually affect our minds? Because you said something about loneliness, it's not that good. So how does loneliness affect our minds or impact us negatively? How does it affect our health?
Yeah, good question. So right now there are a lot of studies being done that, I mean, the coronavirus epidemic, I didn't even think we were going to talk about this, but here we are. Coronavirus, we can't escape it. Anyway, so this coronavirus epidemic has brought to light a lot of issues that have to do with loneliness. Because these issues were there, but they were never fully studied or fully, brought to light. Now that people were told to quarantine, self-quarantine and stuff like that, it then came to light. What are the psychological, effects of being alone? And who best to ask other than NASA? Because NASA sends astronauts to space, and for long periods of time they are alone, either alone or just the two of them. And therefore they had to do a lot of studies that have to do with, being alone in a confined space, also just about loneliness. And the impact it has on our psyche is that some people take it differently. People react to it differently. So some people can even go down into depression because of loneliness. because they're lonely. They can start to have one negative thought piling up, one negative thought after another. People don't want me. People don't even notice me. Sometimes people just walk into the street and try to see if people are going to notice them. And they see that everyone is going around about their business, and they're like, it's like they're invisible. And so they can go down into depression, into a depressed state, which can even result into suicides. So loneliness is something really important, something that has to be addressed before it goes into, into things like depression, where it's already something that has to be addressed clinically. So when someone feels alone, feels lonely, they have to try and reach out to someone. And if you also identify someone and you seem to feel like they might be lonely, try to talk to them. Even just a smile, even just to say, I see you. Just calling them and say, let's go out for dinner sometime. No strings attached. It's not a date. We're just going to, to just have a walk. We're just going to eat out together, and to talk. Tell me your life story. Who are you? Where are you? Where are you going? Stuff like that. Just let them know you see them and that they are there and that they all laugh.
And I think it's vital to make sure that they know it's not a date. Because if they're already lonely and then you just go like, oh, let's go out, then you're already putting the hopes there, and then all of a sudden you promise them that's going to make them times 20 backwards, that kind of thing. So that's also vital.
That's very important.
The points you raise are amazing. It all reminds me of like a study I saw today from Einstein, I don't know how to pronounce it. Basically, it kind of revealed how they did like a study, a research on loneliness and how it affects the mind and everything like that. And it was interesting how, like in the conclusion, basically, it said, if you want the link, let me know later. But it said loneliness can affect in two different ways, like a lot of ways, but they gave two different, like the emotional and the physiological effects. The emotional impacts are, on the emotional side, the perception that social support is inadequate is associated with depression, which, if severe and untreated, is associated with increasing disability, loss of weight, disturbed sleep, and thoughts of suicide or actual suicide. Loneliness can also lead to a self-defeating sense of hopelessness and helplessness that can perpetuate isolation. So it's vital to and then the physiological effects, I was just like, geez, but it kind of makes sense. Loneliness is also associated with a problematic change in the cardiovascular, hormonal, and immune system. So if you don't work on this, and it actually shows a lot of times, like a lot of studies have shown that if, especially people like who are elderly, most of the times, let's say if one of the partners die, most of the times the other one will die quicker. Like literally,
they follow after not so long,
and most of the deaths, they are usually linked with health effects. It's not like, oh, they just died because they were lonely. It's like, yeah, they were lonely, and then all of a sudden they start having, maybe they were healthy all along, and then all of a sudden they start having cardiovascular illnesses, or the immune system just starts, that kind of thing. So it's important to realize that loneliness it's a real thing. However, like, even though loneliness is a real thing, there are other ways we can treat it. Like basically what Anesu said, speak to someone, or try to, when you realize that you're feeling lonely, don't just try and suppress it. Do the whole self-care kind of thing, whereby self-care, you realize, okay, I need to speak to someone, or I need to visit my GP, or I need to, what's it called? I need to exercise more, or like find ways, know yourself. And then once you know yourself, find ways to actually meet the need that is being lagged, that kind of thing. And I think that's vital, even though sometimes we just focus on, okay, if you're alone, pray. Like, you need to pray, but at the same time, you need to do other practical elements, practical things to actually combat that. Yeah.
Very true. Thank you very much. It also has an impact on the immune system. Anything that affects you psychologically can have an impact in lowering your immune defense. So it's also very important to, you know, be happy. Be happy. Also find ways to be happy outside of others. Do not base your happiness on someone else. If you do that, you're gonna be in real trouble.
Trust. All right, because of time now, let's try it. All right, how can we try and fill the void? Yes, Mishi. How can you try and fill the void of loneliness and actually reach a stage of being alone? Or should I maybe rechange the question? Like, are there any biblical, we'll go back to the Christian perspective now. Are there any biblical examples of people who were actually alone? And how did they deal with it? Was being alone a bad thing in the Bible? Or maybe people who were actually lonely? And let's differentiate those two.
Good question. So, Jesus wasn't lonely, but he took time to be alone. He took time to be alone. Those 40 days, yes, Michael, I was thinking the exact same things. Those 40 days in the desert, he took time to be alone, time to be alone with God, and, you know, get ready for his ministry. Now, we can do the same. I'm just, I have to identify people, but a thought just came into my mind. I'm just going to run with it. We have to do the same. I was watching something on critical thinking recently, and it was saying, take time to be away from social media, away from your phone, away from music. You know, in those times that we are maybe washing dishes, we are commuting or something, the time we have between the things we are doing, take that time to give your mind some peace and think. Think about your life, where you're going, where you're coming from. Think about all these other important things, because most of the times people fill all these empty spaces with music, podcasts, I don't know, calls, texts, social media. But you have time to be alone, like what Jesus did. Sometimes we also have examples of those who are alone, like Legion. He was alone. And
but wasn't Legion a demon? Wasn't Legion demons?
Yeah, he had a legion of demons, right? And did we really have his name, or
I
or
think
the guy on...
Legion is not his name. Legion are demons, which were on him.
Yeah, but when asked, he was like, we don't have any other name for the guy though from the Bible, do we?
Yeah, but legions are demons. Like,
yeah.
Oh, God, sorry.
So these were demons that were possessing this guy, forcing him to live alone amongst the tombs. Yeah, Job. That's a good one. Michael, Job. Yeah, Job was alone. Ooh, Job's situation, man. There was, wow.
Can you just go into Job a little bit? Because I'm feeling it. Like, Job was alone and was alone in a crowd. Actually, no. Job was with people. He wasn't alone. I'll give two examples to differentiate alone and loneliness. Job wasn't alone, but he felt lonely in a crowd. He had a wife, right? He had his friends. But his wife and his friends, they kept on coming to him and telling him, you are wrong, you are this, you are that. Until he was just like, guys, can you just depart from me? I want to be alone. So he was lonely in their midst. And he was like, I would rather be alone than to be lonely in your midst because you're not helping me in any ways, that kind of thing. And then it was at the point where he was now alone, that's when he was able to really reflect on what was going on. and communicate with God, and then ask God like the deeper questions which we need, because he started like doubting like what's going on. But even though God didn't really give him an answer of which he wanted, God gave him peace of mind. So maybe being alone is not a bad thing, because most of the times when we see amazing things that happened in the Bible, for example, Moses, before he helped the Israelites to cross the road, like to leave Egypt to Canaan, he had to be alone. God spoke to him whilst he was alone. And then we have an example of someone who was actually lonely, was David, a person after God's heart. He was lonely. I'm not saying alone, lonely. And he also felt alone, whereby David experienced profound moments of loneliness. He had times when he was being hunted by his son and had to leave his own family, that kind of thing. And most of his psalms, they actually talk about him saying, "Oh, I'm lonely," because like is it Psalms 25 verse 16 to 21, I'll just read 16. It says, "Turn to me and be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted. Relieve the troubles of my heart and free me from my anguish." Like, this guy was really feeling it, and he was like, "Lord, please come and intervene," that kind of thing. He felt lonely. And then Jesus, he felt he was alone. There were periods where he literally remembered, I have to self-care. So you'd leave everyone, go on his own, and just spend time with God. Because when you spend time with God alone, he was able to then come back to people and feel like, okay, now I can help people. Now I have the strength, that kind of thing. But Jesus also felt lonely. Did you know? Like in the Garden of Gethsemane, when is it Matthew 27 verse 46, which actually says, about 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani." Yeah, I can't say that word. Which means, "My God, my God, why are you?" Really? Well, English is not my language, guys. Like, basically, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Like, at that point in time, although Jesus was used to being with people and used to spending time on his own, at this time, he really wanted people, guys. He needed people, but the people he was relying on, which is what Anesu was saying, we have people around, but don't rely fully on people. The people he was relying on were not there for him at that time. And you felt like, man, I'm on my own. And at that time, you felt like he was on his own. God had literally forsaken him. But even in the midst of that all, he went to God. And in the midst of that, we realized that God was like, "I'm here. I'm here for you." So if Jesus felt lonely, if Jesus also realized the importance of being alone, then we can take it as an encouragement that just because I'm feeling lonely doesn't mean that I'm not worth it, because God is saying, "Still come to me and I will give you that comfort." A lot of people felt lonely in the Bible, and they would go to God and God would give them comfort. And it's also good to be alone at times, because being alone can help you to actually know where God is trying to call you to, can help you to energize. And just because you're alone in a crowd or alone around people, you're literally what's called sticking to one principle and everyone else is not doing it, it doesn't mean that you are wrong. It means that you're doing the right thing most of the times, hopefully. Just keep on doing it if you know that what you're doing is the right thing. But don't be one of those people who end up being alone and everyone else is doing the right thing and you're like, "Nah, I'm not going to do the right thing." So remember that story Anesu said. If you haven't watched the rewind and listen to it, it'll make sense. But yeah.
Great.
Don't know if you have anything else to say.
I was saying in the comments, this live might end anytime. I don't know how long it gives. How long does it give us? Because it's like,
I don't know.
But anyway, so I saw here, Musa was saying, example in the Bible, guy by the pool who was crippled and had nobody to put him in for 38 years. 38 years of feeling such loneliness. No one to just push you into the water. He didn't need much. He just needed a push, a nudge into the water. And he didn't have that for 38 years. That's how lonely, that's how alone he was. We don't know if he felt lonely, but he was really alone. And we also have Michael saying, what about Hagar and Ishmael? That story. You know, there's a lot of stories in the Bible, but this one, I once had it preached by this preacher. I almost dropped a tear. I didn't, but I almost did.
Are you sure? But yeah,
Yeah. And then, or Cain after killing Abel. Oh yeah, Cain after killing Abel, that guy had to go away. Like, he had to go away, and he was definitely alone, away from the family. There was no one else in the world, like absolutely no one else. He knew he could walk 5,000 miles and still not see a living soul. So that guy was probably lonely. And I think
but that guy was a good example of a negative alone, because he was alone because of negative consequences.
But just come on, Mimi, I didn't cry. But don't you think at some point the guy was remorseful of what he did and felt like, you know?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer. I don't want to say what I think. In case what I think is wrong. Yeah. But yeah.
I would love to believe. I don't know if it's true. I would love to believe that at some point he was remorseful for what he did, and he really felt lonely. He really felt like it would have been great if he could rejoin the family. But maybe he just never had the courage to go back there, knowing what he had done. Unlike the prodigal son who came back. Well, the prodigal son had not killed someone, totally different circumstances. But I mean, go back. Something terrible happens. You do something terrible and you're alone. Go back. Go back. You never know what's going to happen. And if it's God, he's always there waiting for you with his arms open wide, saying, come back. Just like the story of the prodigal son. And if you look at that story of the prodigal son, everyone else was like, what are you doing? This guy, like, he took everything from you. But the father was like, come back, my son, and enjoy in the riches of your father. I mean, it was incredible. The same way Jesus is waiting for us and saying, come back. So we don't have to be alone. No matter what we have done in the past. I mean, look at, who was that evil king, Manasseh? Who even went to the extent of sacrificing kids and all, but still God forgave him in the end. So, yeah.
So what are we saying in conclusion?
Yeah, you go ahead and give your conclusion.
Now you can start.
If you leave something for me, we have like 27 seconds remaining. So.
All right. So basically, in conclusion, I would say that just because there's a big difference between loneliness and alone. We've already established that. If you're feeling alone, if you're feeling lonely, then take it to the Lord in prayer.